Hi folks, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, in whichever part of the world you are staying and you are watching this video, and hopefully you guys are safe. I am back with another set of series. Let's talk and let's learn together on my channel Come Learn Together. And today I'm going to kick off one of the series which is aiming to help the people who are aiming to appear in certification exams. So today's session is based on CISA exam preparation questions and answers. And CISA, as you guys are aware, it is Certified Information System Auditor Certification Exam, and we are going to discuss some of the questions from domain 1 in this video, and in the upcoming weeks I will be discussing or taking some questions from each of the domains or subdomains where people are likely getting confused while attempting to answer those questions. By the way, this is Kashif Akhtar with you, and as you know, I am a full-time teacher nowadays, teaching people on the different certification examinations, starting from CISA, PMP, CIRISC, certified fraud examiner. I am teaching also people on various ISO standards, as I am the ISO lead auditor for various ISO standards, starting from quality management system, health and safety, environment, business continuity, information security management systems, business collaborations, innovation management system, and so on. And this session is particularly for CISA questions and answers, and this session is for domain 1, and we are going to discuss today 10 questions from domain 1. As in the interest of the people, I'm not going to make a very big video of it, but I want to actually, my aim is to explain how we can use the theory of elimination or our basic knowledge to understand the questions first and how to attempt the questions, so that we can actually enhance our capability or our probability of passing the exam in the first attempt. So guys, like this video and you would like to keep yourself posted of about in regards to my upcoming videos, so I will request you to kindly subscribe also and kindly click the bell icon so that you can keep yourself posted of my next upcoming videos. And I will try to actually send a link or put something in my channel so that you will come to know when I am going to release questions and answers prep series for different types of certifications on Comelearn Together. And the whole aim of the channel is to take some professional courses, try to discuss some of the questions and answers so that you can understand how to attempt to answer those questions, and it will be beneficial for you guys out there, so you can actually enhance your career. And I will be looking forward for your prayers if you are successful in the exam. So guys, welcome back. So let us discuss today domain 1 for CISA exam preparation questions, and let's see how we do and how we attempt each of this question. So today we are going to discuss about the IS audit process. So just see what questions we are going to get. In this question, if you see, an IS auditor is reviewing access to an application to determine whether the 10 most recent new user forms were correctly authorized. Now, this is an example of what? So as we see, if we have to attempt this question, so it is giving us 4 options. One is variable sampling, one is substantive testing, one is compliance testing, stop or go sampling. Now, if we are trying to review access to an application to determine whether the 10 most recent new user forms were correctly authorized. So actually we are doing a sort of testing. We are not doing some sort of sampling, because sampling means that we are going to actually take from the population some of the samples. So if the question was regarding that there is a whole population and he is trying to pick up something, so then it would have been considered as sampling. So if we have to rule out 2 answers or 2 options from here, so I will rule out the sampling one. Now, when he's saying the 10 most recent new user form were correctly authorized, so what actually he is trying to uh, test the system with respect to a policy or a procedure. So from the time it says that were correctly authorized, so when I see the word were correctly authorized and that is the aim, so this means that there will be a policy or a procedure which will say that how we should be authorizing a person or a new user and which sort of authorizations or which sort of access we should be giving. So it is mostly with relate to a policy and a procedure. So we can simply tell it as a compliance testing. And the other reason being the substantive testing actually means detailed testing of a process just to see whether the process or the underlying circumstances are actually in order, or we are going to test the process itself. We are not actually having a baseline or a policy or a procedure to verify something whether it is correct or not correct. So when it comes to correct or not correct, so it is basically compliance testing, and let us see what the answer says. So compliance testing, which determines whether the controls are being applied, is complying with a policy or a procedure. So basically, this is how we should approach this question itself. It seems to be sometimes very easy if we know the concepts and we know the theory of eliminations. Sometimes we have to use the theory of elimination because it was not asking for sampling, so I have ruled out the sampling. So let's see another questions. Now the decisions and actions of IS auditor are most likely to affect which of the following risks. Now when it comes to the audit exercise, now what and where the IS auditor can go wrong. So what is the risk that if decisions, if they are correct, can affect some of the risks, or if his actions are correct or not correct, which sort of risks it can occur. So basically the four options, if we see, I'm going to rule out the business risk because the IS auditor actions will not affect the business as such. The IS auditor is also not responsible for the organizational controls. So organization controls, even if we do some action also, that will not affect the controls of the organization. And inherent risk, he will be affecting inherent risk with respect to the audit itself, but with his actions and his decisions, the inherent risk is going to remain there. So we are going to rule out this. So with the theory of elimination, we suggest detection risk. But if we come from the logic point of view also, the IS audit or the audit exercise is always about detecting problems, detecting issues, detecting or identifying gaps and all these things. So it is all about detecting. Since he is detecting the things, so his decisions and his actions can affect the detection of the problem itself. So that is the only risk from the logical point of view. Let's see the answer. And it says detection risks are directly affected by the auditor selection of audit procedures and techniques. Inherent risks are not usually affected by the IS auditor, and control and the business risks are basically the actions of the company's management and nothing to do with the IS auditor actions or his decision making. So you guys saw, like, this is the way we should be approaching this thing, and if we're going to practice this thing, so we are going to reduce the time of attempting the question. Now we are back to question number 3. In the question number 3, the senior management has requested the IS auditor to assist the departmental management in the implementation of controls, which is a normal circumstances. During the normal, internal auditors are always asked to participate in some of some of the recommendations for the control, but never for the implementation of the control. But if they have been asked, so what options the IS auditor should have? In the normal circumstances also, he will not be able to refuse the assignment, since it's not the role of the IS auditor, because in the normal organization, Refusal is not an option, and especially refusal to the senior management is not an option. Okay, if we have any conflict of interest, if we have like it is going to impair my independency, so there may be another way of handling the issue. So let's see what other option says. Inform the management of his or her inability to conduct future audit of the same thing. So this is something which I feel is reasonable, so I will come back to it afterwards, but he cannot refuse, so I'm going to strike this kind of option out of it. Perform the assignment and the future audits with due professional care. So if I am, the word implementation here is very much important, because if it just said recommendations, so recommendations, it is the duty of the auditor to give, so that would not have been a problem. But even though when he is implementing and he is doing due professional care also, which means that he will be taking care that he doesn't go and audit his own stuff also, but he will not be able to do that because he is directly involved in the implementation of the controls. So this option is a little bit vague, and like performing the assignment and conducting the future audit, and doesn't say after which months or which year, or maybe an after a year or 2 years, it is going to impair his independence. So I'm going to strike this thing out. Obtain the approval of the user management to perform the implementation and the follow-up. Now, even though if he obtains the approval of the user management also, still he will be implementing the controls, he will be involved there. So this is not going to serve the questions, or this is not an appropriate option for the IS auditor to actually proceed with. So we are left with inform the management. So this seems to be the right answer, because I cannot refuse the senior manager, but I can tell them that if I'm going to be involved in this project, so I will be like for 1 year or 2 years based on the policy or based on the required uh, period I have to furnish, and then I will be able to audit the same field. So let's see the answer, what the answer says. Informing the management of his inability to conduct future audit is the right answer, because it is going to impair the independence in conducting future audits, and rest of the things we have already discussed. Now in the question number 4, they're asking overall business risk for a particular threat can be expressed as was. The moment we see the word risks, so I will be always looking for a multiplication factor or probability into an impact. What is the magnitude or what is the impact? This is the logical. So I will be referring to risk as a product of probability and impact. So if I see immediately, so I can immediately select point A and just proceed ahead. But let's work on the theory of elimination. Like if I have to be judging the other options also, seeing whether it is uh, fair enough to select A or not. So let us see. D is wrong because it's a collective judgment of risk assessment team. So it is not based on the judgment. Okay, the likelihood of a given threat source exploiting a given vulnerability, this only have the likelihood or the probability. So it is not complete with respect to the definition of risk. And the B option is saying magnitude, which is also only having the impact without the likelihood. So we have to strike out B, C, and D, and we are left with the option A. And let's see what is the answer given, because I always have to look what is the probability of a vulnerability exploiting the environment or a threat exploiting a vulnerability, and what will be the magnitude if that a threat successfully exploits a vulnerability. So that's how we are going to arrive at this question. In question number 5, which of the following is an example of substantive testing? So checking a list of exception reports, ensuring approval for parameters changes, using a statistical sample to inventory the tape library, or reviewing the password history report. Now, as we were discussing, the difference between substantive testing and compliance testing is something where compliance will have a baseline to compare it against, whether it is complying with the baseline or a policy or a procedure. But when we talk about substantive testing, so if we have a doubt and we want to do entire um, process mapping and process checking and process testing, so then it will be substantive testing. So if I have to rule out through using the theory of elimination, so when I'm checking a list of exception reports, so I will be comparing it with something which is valid and logical, or a procedure or a policy. So this will be compliance testing. Example, approval of parameter changes will also either it is approved or not approved. So it is also a set of compliance testing. Reviewing a password history reports will also be a sort of compliance testing. So I'm left behind with using a statistical sample to inventory that tape library. So let's look at the answer, what the logic is being given. So using such a substantive testing confirms the integrity of the actual processing. Okay, and it will determine if the tape library records are stated correctly. The compliance test determines if the controls are being applied in a manner. So checking the authorizations, reviewing the authorizations, and reviewing the password history are all comprised tests, because they will be the test will be applied to check the consistency with the management policies and the procedures. So let's take another example. The use of statistical sampling procedures help minimize what? Sampling risk, detection risk, inherent risk, and control risk. Now, when we use the word sample, so if we have 100 things and we are going to take out 10 as sample, so what sort of risk I am taking? Maybe these 10 samples are good, or maybe only one of these is bad, or maybe two of them is having not compliance features, or maybe if I take 20, all of them are good samples and I'm not able to detect any problem or any issue into that kind of a scenario. So logically it will be taking, the problem will be like, if I take a more statistical sampling, I will group them. So what I'm doing is that I'm minimizing my detection risk. So I will be detect better if I'm using a statistical sampling. So that is the logical answer. If I go by theory of elimination, sampling risk will always be there even if I use statistical or non-statistical. Sampling risk will be there, will always going to be there. So it is not going to help me if I use statistical or non-statistical sampling. Inherent risks are always there. I cannot reduce or minimize it with using a statistical sampling. And control risk, because I'm taking a sample and I'm using a sampling technique, it is not going to actually affect any of the control risks also. So from theory of elimination, I'm also going to arrive at the same thing. So let's look at the answer. The IS auditor can quantify how closely the samples should be representing the population and quantify the probability of error. So this is actually going to help me in the detection risk. It will minimize the detection risk. So this is how we should be answering the question. So let's take another question, which is, which of the following is a benefit of a risk-based audit approach to audit planning? So if we are planning an audit and we are using a risk-based approach, what will be the benefit out of it? Scheduling may be performed months in advance. Budgets are more likely to be met by an IS audit. Staffs will be exposed to a variety of technologies, or resources are allocated to the highest areas of highest concern. Now, logical speaking, if I am using the risk-based audit approach, so my whole concentration with towards the areas of highest concern. So if I see the risk-based approach and I see the areas of high risk and I see the resources, so this is a good option to select, because scheduling may be performed months in advance. It can be done without any risk-based approach also. Budgets are more likely to be met by the IS audit staff. Budgets are not actually, maybe cost benefit analysis are a good way of like good advantage and benefit of a risk-based or, but not the budgets. So, and the staff will be exposed to a variety of technologies are actually not one of the consideration towards audit planning, that the staff should be exposed to the variety of technologies. So let's look at the answer. So this is designed to ensure that the audit time is spent on the areas of highest risk. Okay, and a risk base does not have direct correlation with the audit staff meeting with time budgets not necessarily it will mean a wider variety of audits to be, as we were discussing. So let's take another question. The primary objective of an IS audit function is to do what? So determine whether everyone uses IS resources according to their job description. This is not any logical function of an IS audit function, so I'm going to completely strike it out. Determine whether the information systems safeguard assets and maintain data integrity. That is one of the feature of IS audit function. Examine book of accounts and relative documentary evidence for a computerized system. Now this is a little bit of closed statement. So this is not a primary objective. Maybe we will be doing in the computerized system some of books of accounts or accounts financial testing or account bookkeeping analysis, but this is not one of the primary functions. And determine the ability of an organization to detect fraud is also not one of the primary objective that we will be building in an IS audit function. So logically we arrive, and with the theory of elimination also we arrive that this should be the only primary based on the options given. Is I'm not saying that this is the only primary objective, but based on the options which are given, it make more sense whether the information systems are safeguarding assets and data integrity, because information audit function, the information system audit, is all about CIA, which is about confidentiality of the information, integrity of the information, and the availability of the information. So always remember these three words, which is CIA, which will be helping us to understand the questions and answer them in a more appropriate and without wasting much efforts on this one. And question number 9 says a key element in risk analysis is what? So let's start with the theory of elimination. So risk analysis, the element within risk analysis, audit planning is not one of them. And the key element in risk analysis is not a control, because control will come after the risk assessment and risk has been analyzed, and we will see whether it is control is required or not required. Liabilities are never part of risk analysis, so we are left with vulnerabilities. And it makes sense also that what threats and which vulnerabilities are available in the system, which a threat environment or any other weakness in the environment which a threat can exploit. So that is the vulnerabilities. So theory of elimination and the logic also suggest answer as vulnerability. So let's take the last question for this session, and we will be back with another set of questions. Like I will be sending it or uploading it every Sunday or Monday. I will be communicating to the this feature on my channel itself. So be posted. So I would request you to kindly put the subscribe button on and pull the bell icon and click the bell icon also, so that you can get the notification as soon as I upload these questions and with my explanations of the answers. Now, audit charter should be what? So be dynamic and change often to coincide with the changing nature of technology and audit profession. It should have dynamic, because it should be dynamic, but it does not mean that it has to be often changed often, or it should be coinciding with the nature of the technology. So audit charter is a sort of authorization or is authorization document which will list the scope and responsibilities of the audit function. So that's the basic aim. So if I go by the body of knowledge, so I will immediately select D. But if I go by the theory of elimination also, as I was discussing, that this is also one way if you are not sure or if you get confused. So it should not, audit charter is an authorization document. It may be dynamic, but it doesn't require to be changing, or there is no necessity for it to be coinciding with the changing nature of the audit profession. Clearly state audit objectives for and the delegation of authority to maintenance and review of internal controls. This is actually not at the mandate of the audit charter to set audit objectives or to set the delegation of authority for the review of internal controls. The audit charter is a high level document, and these are actually the audit scopes, and it can be discussed in other documents but not in audit charter. Document the audit procedure designed to achieve planned audit objectives. This can be part of audit manuals or audit other documentation, but not part of the audit charter. So let's see the answer. Because it is a management sort of delegation of authority to the IS auditor. So this charter is a authorization documents where enlisting the responsibilities of the audit, the scope of the audit function, and the authority which has been mandated by the management towards the IS audit function. So hope to see you soon, guys. Bye for now. And hopefully you will be waiting for my another set of 10 questions from other domains and subdomains, and hope to see you soon. Bye for now.